This is the Lotus Exige Cup 430. So today we are going full focus on the Lotus Exige Cup 430, one of the final hurrahs for the Lotus Exige. In terms of the car itself, it was added as part of the Horizon Realms update, and you can get it for completely free. Now in terms of the car itself, well, sat under the hood or rather behind your driver's head is going to be a 430 horsepower supercharged engine. Now I may be wrong on this one and you can feel free to correct me in the comments, but from what I've heard, this is the exact same engine that goes into some of the Toyota minivans, which is just absolutely ridiculous to think about. Now if there's anything that most people know about the Lotus brand, typically it's a small lightweight car putting out a moderate amount of horsepower. However, the Exige Cup is probably one of the most extreme Lotus ever made, well, especially when you think about it. This is again the design philosophy of a small lightweight car, then putting out 430 brake horsepower with some ridiculous amount of aero and carbon fiber parts. It's absolutely littered with them. Anything from the wing to the roof, a lot of the vents, they are all fully functional, adding to that lightweight stripped back feel. And then again, you throw in a 430 brake horsepower supercharged engine and well, you're in for a winner. I feel like now it's time to head to the streets and talk more in detail about this thing. So here we are on the streets of Mexico to talk about the Lotus. Now I've played a bunch of Horizon 5 ever since it launched on both Xbox and PC, mainly on the Xbox, and honestly I played it pretty much a couple of times every single month up until around about 9 months ago, and at that point I just set the game down and never ever bothered to go back. However, when the PlayStation 5 version launched, it kind of reignited my interest with the game once again, and at that point I definitely needed a few cars added to the roster which could keep me coming back for more, and the Lotus, well, it really fit the bill. Coming alongside the Horizon Realms update, this car can be unlocked for completely free, as I've mentioned. All you need to do is go ahead and complete 6 of the Realms skill mode and well, the car is going to be yours. After that, you'll just have to head over to the Evolving Worlds Horizon Realms and claim your car from there. And well, after 30 minutes of playtime, the car is going to be all yours for completely free. Now I must stress this when it comes to the Exige 430, it isn't the best at one specific task. It's not necessarily going to knock any of the best cars at a certain specific thing off of their perch. However, it is an incredible all-rounder vehicle that does anything absolutely well. So let's talk about the car itself when it comes to its real-world performance and what everything is about when it comes to the Exige 430. It's not just another Lotus or a random model variant of the Lotus. This is the culmination of decades of hard work, and when it comes to the Exige, it's the ultimate top of the line version and the one that you should really want to get your hands on, especially when it comes to Horizon 5. So the best way to view this car is think of it as Lotus taking all that knowledge they've gained over the years when it comes to their motorsport and road cars and then putting all of that into one single package, and this is the result. As you can see, it's a vehicle that has a lot of hints in the name. Now of course we have the Cup, so of course when it comes to the aero, it's very much a lot of racy tech here. That huge rear wing, a lot of the carbon fibre, the vents. Of course we have the 430, which stands for the actual power output of the car, very obvious. The Exige Cup 430, so 430 brake horsepower this thing is putting out in this incredibly lightweight grippy package. It really does feel like decades of hard work have been poured into making this the most extreme Exige that will ever exist, and one of the finest examples of a road car by Lotus. Of course, at the heart is that screaming supercharged 3.5 litre V6. Oh yeah, and it sounds absolutely incredible. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, whilst doing some research on this car and trying to figure it out in the real world, from what I can gather, that is the exact same engine that goes inside of some of the Toyota minivans, which is just absolutely ridiculous to think about. Of course, Lotus did go ahead and strap it with a supercharger to give it that incredible whine. But again, when it comes to power, there's plenty of it for a car that weighs just over 1,000 kilograms. So what Lotus is mainly known for is absolutely here and pushed to the maximum. This is almost a completely stripped back version of the Exige. No luxury, none of that stuff, just pure bred machinery. This is made to be incredibly lightweight, and it really is, and you can feel that within Horizon 5 just by how this thing shreds up almost any corner at a ridiculous speed. And that is of course thanks to that insane aero that's on show. The huge rear wing, the carbon fibre, the vents littered almost everywhere really does help giving this an incredible handling and aerodynamic kick. So with that out of the way, I think it's time we go ahead and go to some events to test it out through a bunch of different situations. So up first was Horizon Apex. Now honestly, the first thing you really want to be doing when it comes to the Lotus and making it competitive like every other car in Forza Horizon 5 is getting it towards the peak of a class. Now S1, this thing sits incredibly comfortable right at the peak before it drops into S2, and really it doesn't need that much changing to it. The main thing I would recommend doing is making it all-wheel drive. I know that sounds like blasphemy to Lotus purists, but honestly, the sheer amount of extra grip you get through that is absolutely astonishing. When it comes to the power output, you really don't need to put that much extra power through this car. So really focus your build in the handling section of the vehicle, and honestly you'll come up with an absolute world beater. Now of course this thing sits in the extreme track toys category, and a lot of the cars are going to follow the same philosophy as your vehicle. So overall you want to be aiming to make up a lot of the time through the corners. Now the only real downside of this car is honestly its top speed. There's a lot more extreme vehicles when it comes to the top end. This will typically sit anywhere from about 175 to 190 when you're sitting at the peak of S1. So again, you want to be focusing on making a lot of time up through the corners, and that is where this car will always excel. Again, with that all-wheel drive swap, it's going to be absolutely unbeatable at maintaining speed through pretty much every corner in the game. Of course, it's incredibly lightweight, so the brakes are always doing a top job of slowing you down, so really it's like being on rails with this thing. So when it comes to the Horizon Apex test, of course this is more suited towards the car itself and its, I guess, real world purpose. We were sitting quite comfortably up in P2 in no time, and well, you can probably guess the car in front was a certain type of other Lotus, and we were actually managing to rein him in. Eventually we get onto the back of him and get the move done. So when it comes to Apex, I would certainly say it's a tick. It's really what this car is focused on, is those type of more technical racy events. It's also extremely good at street racing thanks to being an incredibly agile package. So after testing out some of the more road racing type events in game, I then went to go ahead and try and do a bit of drifting. Of course I just wanted to see if it could handle the drift zones being an all-wheel drive swap car, and all of a sudden I had a light bulb moment. Can this thing really do the impossible and be turned into some type of rallycross type rocket ship? Well, yeah, it can. So yeah, it turns out with the correct upgrades and the correct settings, you can go ahead and make this into an absolute pocket rocket of a rallycross type vehicle, and you'll probably have a blast with it as well. So the Lotus Exige Cup 430, it certainly isn't a master at any one thing. However, one thing it does do is do everything incredibly well. So for me, if you was going to go for any car in the Horizon Realms update, I'd just go ahead and do these 6 events, spend 30 minutes unlocking this thing, and you're in for an absolute treat. Anyway, that's my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. So So that's going to be it from me today. Thank you so much to you guys for joining me for my first ever Forza Horizon 5 car review. I've got plenty of content planned for this game. I think it is absolutely incredible, and it's been a really refreshing experience as a long-term player to go back and really start again. In terms of content for this channel, I have more GT7 and Forza Horizon 5 stuff coming your way in the near future. Thank you for your patience recently. Let's go ahead and get back into it. If you enjoyed this, leave a like, comment and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Take care guys. Peace.